Hello, and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast, where we dive into all things digital automation. I'm your host, Nandan Mullakara. While I'm not podcasting, I help people keep up with the fast changing digital technologies at botnirvana.org. I hope you enjoy the show. Let's get right into it. We have Shreekant Mandvikar on our podcast today. Shreekant is an intelligent automation expert who has helped 20 plus customers on their intelligent automation journey. He currently leads intelligent automation initiatives at Ally Financial. In this chat, we discuss his intelligent automation journey and learnings, interesting use cases, tracking value, Gen AI, and more. Let's listen in. Hi, Shreekant. Welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast. Thank you for being a member of the Bot Nirvana community and all your contributions. Can we start with a quick introduction about yourself?
Yes, Nandan. Thanks for inviting me to this club. I'm Shreekant Mandvikar. I am working in automation industry from last 14 plus years. 6 plus years I have dedicatedly focused on process automation, AI, ML. How do we scale and enhance the automation operations across the world? I have helped more than 20 organizations to start their automation journey or scale them up at different levels, depending on their level of maturity, what should be the next step. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if somebody from Bot Nirvana wants to visit me, feel free to drop by.
Thank you. Wow, that's a great portfolio that you have. 20 automation companies that you have started them on their journey. So that's awesome. So what inspired you in becoming an automation leader?
I think it goes back to my early college days, engineering days, when you like to experiment a lot. And in 2009, when technology was not ready, 2008-9 timeframe, we tried to build the first OCR. And with no skill set about how the OCR works, what would be the pieces it will really require. And to an extent, we were able to get a 66% hit rate. And it was not an OCR, it was a pure image to pixels to finding the mapping to and text conversion. But with 66% accuracy, I was really interested to continue working on that. Life happened. I joined a consulting company. I started working with them. Worked on Oracle apps for 8 plus years. And during that time, I learned a lot of techno-functional background, how business works, what are the different workflows they use, or what is supply chain, what is finance and accounting. So me being a techno-functional consultant for my company, I was able to imagine all those processes. But always felt that while Oracle, I was working on Oracle apps. So while Oracle was able to provide a lot of good points and a really good solution, there is always somebody working at the other end doing those manual data entries. So for 3 plus years towards the tail end of my Oracle career, I tried to see how much I can reduce the clicks, how much I can reduce the human interaction. But at the end of the day, it all fell flat because if it's a system, somebody needs to interact. And not all features are easily accessible, or it was too expensive to build. This is where around 2013 to 2015 timeframe, I started looking at different tools and technologies, played with test automation a little bit. It gave me some confidence that, okay, there could be something available. And then finally, I stepped onto Automation Anywhere and UiPath. So that were my first few projects. I did experimented with them a lot. And then alongside that, IBM released Watson around that time frame. So they gave a really easy to use features, which got my interest even more peaking, because while AI was available before that to a great extent, it was not that easy to use. So Watson was like, hey, do you want to build a chatbot? Drag, drop, write, and done. And that gave me that curiosity again from OCR, 8 years after OCR, to back to the chatbot and automation tools. And then from there, I have picked up automation. I did so many implementations for various Fortune 500 companies. But I always like the way when you go into the first meeting and this is something very close to me. Whenever I go into a first meeting, when somebody has not seen an automation, they are like, okay, so what are you doing here? You are saying that specifically for chatbots, this has happened. What you're trying to do is you're trying to just write if and else. And it has taken me forever calories to help them move away from if and else to come to a conversational experience which they should give to their customers. But I always loved those questions, always loved those conversations, and I'm happy to be in this space, and I want to continue see it growing.
Very good, very good. So I think you have a great background, right? I mean, a techno-functional guy, very innovative, playing around, tinkering around things, and I think that has probably helped you in this journey a lot in terms of automation being one of those cutting edge things that people have been implementing probably in the last 5-6 years, right? So in your journey, have you come across very innovative use cases that you have implemented for any of your customers?
Yes, yes. I want to take a one non-automation use case, but it was a
Okay.
automation use case.
Okay.
And that is, so let me go directly into that. So at that point, I was working as a consultant for one of the HVAC companies, and all their back office, they need to go to three screens, just three screens. First screen, they put the customer name, and it goes to different systems. T plus, it gets all the addresses and it shows them what address to use. And then they select one address and then they put an item number and then they put submit again. It goes back, and after 60 seconds the operator sees the actual values which to use. Now, to do this, actually, while the operator is doing this, there is somebody on the phone on the other side waiting for operator to tell, hey, do this. Now, what we did was we built this into a low code platform which is called as Oracle Apex or Application Express. Over there, we were able to reduce those 3 clicks from one. And like, if you want to see the power of technology, this is where like just 2 clicks. Why does it matter? But those 2 clicks reduced the customer waiting time by 4.5 minutes.
Okay.
And for the company, even though they don't have a huge transactional volume like in millions or billions, like what banks and other platforms do, they were still able to save more than 2.5 million just by reducing 2 clicks. And it was possible on day one, but that was the power of technology which saved 2 clicks. But at the same time, customer is not frustrated, operator is not frustrated. They are able to get the information then and there. Second use case, and this is kind of a very odd use case for automation. So typically, in a typical robotic process automation world, what we do is we go ahead and we automate the transactions. But this is something I have done for one of the airline customer, where they were moving from one database to another. And they wanted to, while they were migrating, there is a lot of metadata which needs to get converted. Even though this was a small use case, with that metadata conversion, it was just doing the metadata conversion from one system to another. It gave them stability while migration. And at the same time, it helped them not to buy a product which would be costing them more than 300K. So simple use case, which was just supposed to convert the metadata, but it gave them a value which was never ever expected. Saved them licensing costs, saved them building up a team cost, because at the end of the day, if you're getting a new product and you need to build a new team, you need to establish the product, you need to test the product before you actually use it. Automation was able to just skip all those steps. It took all the metadata, it applied all the rules, generated the output, which was good to go. And I think that is one of a very unique use case if you see more from a technology standpoint.
Right. Yeah. And also the value, right, which you are emphasizing. And I think, I keep saying that you always look for the value impact, right? Like whether it is cost savings impact, whether it's a revenue impact or a people experience impact. And I see that, like in the use cases that you said, automation starts with a lot of cost saving impact. right? And then it helps reduce the time or improves experience, so people experience impact, and that really leads to a revenue impact. So generally, and some good use cases there. So tracking the value is one of the key things, and I think you have an ROI framework to track all these things, right? Can you share that with our listeners?
Yes, Nandan. So there are two questions which I ask very beginning at any automation use case, or even establishing the automation team or establishing the automation center of excellence itself. So the first question is why you want to do that,
Right.
like uh, and I will take example of one of the biggest retail chains of USA. It is second or third largest retail chain. So why they needed the automation, and I think we can tap into their experience from them, and we can run through the same ROI framework. So one of the biggest reasons why they wanted to do was they had a key objective. They were on mainframe and they wanted to move away from mainframe to a Java based application. Now it sounds easy, like there are a lot of tools, technologies available to do that,
Right.
but while that platform is moving, one of the biggest challenge the customer had was they had more than 6,000 back office, front office, in-store employees who needs to be retrained. And it is a mammoth task. It would have taken them 3 years just to retrain based on the calculations which was done. So the first piece, convert mainframe to Java. But then the second piece kicks in. They were using thousands of macros on mainframe. So the goal was not move away from macros also, because it was also getting outdated technology. And in Java, they needed automation, but zero user change management. Like that was the goal. So if your key objective is zero user change management, then you will look at differently than when you have established a team to do automation, and then when you are mining the use cases. So this is where my first question is, why you really want to do automation? Do you have a key objective in mind? Like there is a digitization about to happen, and before that digitization happens, you have a lot of tasks which you want to get done, or you are waiting for some upgrade of application which will give you that feature, but for that time frame, even though the ROI is less, you still want to go ahead and do that. So that's part number one. What is your key objective? Once you go past that, okay, key objectives, projects were already met based on the leadership experience, like they wanted to do 4 or 5 key objective projects. Once that's done, then you look at the other side, which is where you work with different stakeholders. Maybe you shadow with individual subject matter experts, you work with ops team, you work with technology leaders, you work with business leaders, and then you find all the list of use cases. So that's part number one. Once you have the use cases, you have to look at it from a couple of different angles. Let's deep dive into that. First one is, and I think that's the most obvious, you want to know what is the cost it's going to take to build it and deploy it. So which will include build, sustain, and any change management cost which it might need, because every time you do an automation, there is a slight change management which is always needed for the end users to train.
Right.
So that's part number one. Once you go beyond those hard savings, that is where you start looking at different aspects. How does it help organization from a regulatory compliance perspective? Some of those processes, especially in banking, finance, healthcare, HR, these use cases have a timeline associated with that. You have to do it by a cutoff time frame. So do you need that kind of cutoff time frame for those processes? Because your value will multiply directly. You don't want to get any fines for those. Another thing is, since automation can run faster, a lot of times it brings data from various systems, and data availability does help you make decisions in better way. Like this happened with me for the airline customer. So one of the challenges which they were facing was data. They had roughly 7 or 8 systems where there are different finance data used to exist. And then individual teams will send it to one place where they will store it. And then there was a job which is going to pick up and take it to a dashboard. So since it was dependent on multiple teams, it used to take between a day to day and a half to reflect the real-time data. With automation, you can get that data and you can make the decision faster. Apart from this, some of the things which a lot of time organizations overlook is employee morale. Like imagine a person day in and day out, he's just doing the invoice processing. So at some point, you reduce the employee morale, but at the same time, you let, if the employee decides to move on, then the knowledge of your organization also goes away with him. So by doing automation, you can improve the employee morale, you can reduce the employee retention cost or hiring cost. So all those things also plays a role. And last but not least, this gives you a way to generate new revenue streams. Like if you are able to get your system or your transaction done in a real time, let's say you work for an pricing aggregator, like an online travel aggregator, and you want to go ahead and aggregate the price and make a decision what would be the cheapest price I should offer, or what is the most optimized price I should offer, so that customer takes a hotel room from my website based on all the deals I have. Now, for that, you need to constantly use APIs and automation to get information depending on different application systems. And then you aggregate it at one place. And then once you project the price to the customer, you are able to actually give them a better offering from your end. And that increased the revenue for a lot of my customers. I have observed it day in and day out, that some of these things, which is often overlooked, because the saving, which most of the operation team, they look the saving only from the point of hard savings, which is, okay, hey, this is going to enable me bandwidth of 3 employees. So my saving is 3 employees multiplied by the yearly salary, but it is way beyond that. In fact, the employees get to do more things. Like this is something in pandemic, we did it we built a solution which was later on implemented for some of our customers. So during pandemic, one of the biggest theme was cash is the king, especially in the first part of the pandemic, where companies were strangling for the cash. They wanted more cash in. And at that point, how companies can make a decision to make payments effectively based on their payment terms and everything else. So how they can get in more cash by offering customers discount in real time. If your employee is always busy doing all other monotonous tasks, he cannot work with the customer or the customer of your platform to say, hey, if you make the payment today, I'm ready to offer you a 10% discount. And we have seen for most of our customers who have implemented that solution, they were able to get their payments done within next 15 days based on those offerings. So at least in pandemic, it was one of the biggest motivators for them to implement it.
All right. So you being an innovator, and so a lot of new technologies coming down the pipe, especially generative AI, and it's more and more taking center stage. So how do you see this generative AI impacting automation in general?
Great question, Nandan. In fact, if you would not have asked, I would have gone ahead and still answered that. So thank you. So one of the biggest thing with generative AI is bringing is it is changing or reshaping the whole industry. And when I say the whole industry, not only automation, the complete digital transformation industry. How does applications interact with each other? How does do they have to really interact in that format? Like I'm seeing this question every day. Hey, earlier, like we used to send you a PDF, and you used to consume that PDF by doing some XYZ OCR, and then you used to make decisions. Do you really want to do that? Or can you make decision right at the PDF level and pass it on to the next API or next automation? You don't really have to go into detail. So the biggest change which I see is the whole intelligent automation industry specifically is going to be impacted with generative AI tools impacting pretty much every piece little by little, but the pace is too fast for a lot of organizations to even adopt. So I see it from 2 angles. One is where I see that how the developed countries are going to adopt it, and then how do the developing nations or the underdeveloped nations are going to take a stab at it. So the developed nations, I think they will be going at a more faster pace, but they will be slowed by some of the old legacy tools. Like mainframe is always at the center stage for some reason. So till the point you don't move away from mainframe, those digital transformation would be very difficult to adopt. But Gen AI can make most of it possible. So I was experimenting with some of the tools where you can actually integrate Gen AI with your tools. If it is especially a web-based mainframe, I have seen a lot of organizations have done that, where they provide web layer on top of mainframe. And if it is a web-based mainframe, you can actually enable the plugin, which can read through the mainframe. It can give you all the information you need. You can ask it question like a conversational chatbot, just like you are doing with ChatGPT or Claude as of today. And you can still get the same extract. You can still get the answers in different ways. So that is one space I'm seeing which is changing. Second thing is automation have been the center stage for last 5 to 10 years because it was a low code, no code. So with Gen AI, your low code, no code bar is even raising, and you are able to generate apps. Maybe it's not 100% usable today, but it is still giving you a really great starting point. And then application generation, your code generation, I have seen, like, I use code generation every day. So that is something which is helping me personally. For my automation tool offers me a way to generate Python code, and I'm using it day in and day out to write some of my automation scripts. Now, going to the second impact, where I see it's going to impact the second world, the developing countries and the underdeveloped countries, I think they are going to miss one or two. They are going to skip actually some of these cycles or technology innovation cycles. Maybe they will move from industry 2.0, I'm just using the term, to industry 4.0 equivalent of automation, where they won't actually build the robots. They might directly start integrating Gen AI and see how they can build the apps to do the work. So while still the task automation would be in the center for most of the intelligent automation pieces, but some of these will start to accelerate in terms of getting those things similarly done through having an actual application, having an actual tool available which can do that instead of you using automation and then running it in backend, because it also requires sustenance and maintenance, and it still requires some calories to make it maintainable. Last piece, I see how it's going to impact the overall automation industry is where Gen AI can even help you monitor these automations. So it will reduce the more human in loop. So let me rephrase that. It will reduce the human in loop. It will enable more straight through processing as we move forward, because Gen AI would be able to take previous feedbacks, make decisions many times. We have to still work around with hallucination part, but yes, most of these things I see should be coming in near future, if not today or tomorrow. So I'm very hopeful for 2024, 2025 to see all these features up and running at an enterprise grade, where it's some of these features are still in initial proof of technology area. So I see it's moving there.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and hallucination is a problem. It's not as predictable as before, but it is more powerful than before. So we'll have to see how all these things can get incorporated into the automation in general and the digital transformation initiatives that is coming up. All right. So as we wrap up here, Shreekant, what would be, if you have to tell someone who's starting on their automation journey now with this new technology landscape and shifting perspectives, what would be your advice to someone starting on an automation journey right now?
Great question, Nandan, again. So one of the things which I have done during my early career stages, and I still do it, which is experiment. Without experimenting or without doing the hands-on, it will always be a stage where but you don't know how it works.
Right.
So that is one thing which I would always recommend. Experiment. Like if there is a new feature coming from which can help your organization or your industry, experiment with it. Try to innovate with what is already available. And second thing is, which is where I have seen a lot of early starters in their career. They are facing challenges. The way they envision the whole journey of moving or using AI. So there are two parts to it. One is you build the AI itself or you use the AI. So identify what interests you more. If you are more interested in building and enhancing the features of AI, go towards that. But if you are more interested in how that feature, how the features which are already pre-built, how you can use it efficiently to make it easier for yourself, your industry, your business, then you can adopt more of that. But if you try to do both the things, the chances of failure becomes a little higher because you will not get enough time to excel in either one of the two. So you have to then pick and choose. So my suggestion is always go with what interests you more. Like if you have a great mathematical background, if you have a great engineering background, playing with how to enable more and more features with AI, how you can fine tune the teeny tiny things which can make it more efficient. That is where your skill set lies. And but if you're more towards making an impact to the end user, making an impact to the industry or your organization, experimenting with the AI which is already offered will enable more and more value. But keep on experimenting. I think that is the mantra I have, and I want to continue on that.
Yeah, that's a great advice, especially with rapidly changing technology. You want to be curious, keep experimenting, and see what works for you, and keep what works and move on from things that doesn't work, right? And so fail fast, fail forward quickly. And this is a cliche, I know, but it's something I think it's more and more important, especially with the fast advancing AI technologies. All right, Shreekant, you want to add something?
Yes. And one more thing is keep it simple and stupid. Don't try to build when you are trying to build first few use cases or first few experiments. Don't try to go, okay, I want to do this end to end. Just take one piece of it which you feel is comfortable or which can show the maximum value out of the whole chain, and just experiment with that one piece. Keep it simple as possible. So it will increase your chances of understanding the technology. It will increase your chances of even be successful with it. Or if it has to fail, you will be able to at least get a lot of learnings from it.
Exactly. And keeping it short also, nowadays people are not don't have enough patience, right? They basically want to see results fast. So that will help in terms of showing something quickly and then expanding on that one, right? Okay, good. So Shreekant, before we go, where can people find and connect with you?
So you can reach me on shreekantmandvikar.com, or you can reach me on LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn/Shreekant Mandvikar. So both the options are available. And Nandan, if I can leave a QR code with you, I will send it to you offline. So
Sure.
if you can attach that, that is another way to do that.
Sure. I'll leave links to both
Okay.
your shrikantmandvikar.com and LinkedIn so that people can click and quickly connect with you. So, Shreekant, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks, Nandan. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you for joining the Bot Nirvana podcast. Appreciate if you can leave a review on iTunes or wherever you're consuming your podcast. Catch the show notes on botnirvana.org. While you are there, feel free to explore more free digital automation resources and more. See you next time.